What? You passed? How could you do that?
Jerry, my young friend. You're so naive. You are so naive. You know about a few things, but you are so far out of your element here, you're embarrassing yourself. Now listen to me. I'm negotiating. Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
Let me explain to you what you just did. If we pass, that's it. They go to the next show.
Ooh, I'm scared.
What do you think? They're up there going, hey, maybe we should give those two guys who have no experience and no idea more money.
Oh, what are we gonna do? I'm shaking.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Well, we'll just see.
Yes, we will.
Welcome to Big Apple Hockey. This is the season opening episode of The Final Buzzer with yours truly, John Fulkowski over here. And I brought along a couple of friends with me. Matt from Rangers Central and Joey D from Ice Cold Takes Podcast. Guys, glad to have you here. Glad to be back. And we'll get to Igor in a little bit because I know that's going to be on everybody's minds after that news today, yesterday, and everything. But how are you guys feeling right now?
Phil, I didn't think I could feel any better after considering the Mets won and moved on to the LCS. The Rangers won the home opener, the season opener. But then that Seinfeld clip, I can't get the smile off my face. That was so funny.
So Marc is going to love the fact that you love that because Marc put that together. Marc is our video guy. He does all the editing and stuff like that with those videos. But I thought that was pretty friggin' funny too. Yeah. So I would love to just show him the clip of you watching it as it's live while we're back in here, not on screen, because he's going to absolutely love that reaction. Oh my God. Natty.
I'm not even a huge Seinfeld fan, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah, but I do. Matt, and you and Natty are both huge Mets fans, actually. And
yeah.
You guys get that tonight. I get the Yankees. We get the Rangers. Great night in New York sports, guys and girls.
I mean, yeah, what a night. Mets are in the NLCS. My second time I ever seen them in the NLCS. Obviously, the first time was 2015, and that went pretty well with sweeping the Chicago Cubs. And also a little wish off the Rangers season with a 6-0 win. So, you know, in the words of Larry David, I'm feeling pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, well, it's funny because Larry David obviously wrote Seinfeld. But, quite fitting we get that. Yeah, I like this one here. Blowout. Blowout D. My screen zoomed.
Did you guys see the video I made today?
Yeah.
The things you say during Rangers games. Well, I sent some footage to Evan, Rangers Central. And before I edited it all together, I was like, all right, here you go, Evan. Here's some raw footage of the video I was talking about. And he's like, raw D. And I'm like, okay, that's the best one yet. But I think this one, easy peasy, and blowout D. That might be my favorite one.
Oh, this is just great. Hold on. I'm having a little something happened with my browser window here, so just bear with me 1 second. You guys could keep talking. I'm trying to just.
Trouba's on a 164 assist pace season. Oh my gosh. How crazy would that be if Anson Carter asked him about it? Are you trying to overtake Foxy in points? And he's just said nope.
No, that was great. I love that comment. I love that comment. All right. We'll go through a little bit of a rundown here, get to some talking points. And first off, Riley Smith, Sam Carrick, welcome to New York. First points as Rangers, Smith with an assist, Carrick with the first goal of the season. Who the hell had that on their bingo card? Either of you?
No way.
Nope.
What a deflection, though, man. I you know what's funny? We were we were just messing around with like parlay bets at the end and seeing like how like crazy of odds we could get, like underdog odds, and like putting like defensive defensemen in like 4-leg parlays. to see like how much we can get on like a $10 bet. And one of them had like Trouba, Sherrod, and like 2 other defensemen. And if we hit for all them scoring a goal, $10 would get like over $800,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I was telling Anthony to put it. And then that happens, and I'm like, holy shit, Jacob Trouba just scored. Why did we not play this? So, I mean, we were all just laughing hysterically at the end of the show about it. So it was great. Yeah, Kreider on pace for 164 goals.
Oh,
That's
my
great.
God.
But, yeah, I thought it was really funny. And then we saw, obviously, the replay. And then Sam Carrick what a deflection. And the play he made, coming off the boards down low, and this was something we really haven't seen a lot of over the years at times, like good, solid puck support down low and 5-on-5. And that's been part of this team's problem at 5-on-5. It's just, where is the puck support and why are they not in the right spots, in the right places, down low at the right times? And then they go and they do that, and it turns into a goal. And Carrick just right spot, right time. Adam Edstrom, that fourth line looked pretty good.
I'm glad Edstrom made the team.
Yeah.
It matters to me. It matters to me. When I had Donnie Pucks on the show, Don LaGreca, I was saying, you look at other teams' fourth lines in the playoffs. Remember Lomberg from the Panthers? And
Absolutely.
how that guy was just, whenever he was in the lineup, he would just make everything living hell for our defenders. So you have an energetic guy in there like Edstrom who's out to prove something, younger guy, then you never know what could happen. And sure enough, they get the first goal tonight. I don't know if he got a point on that one. I don't think he did, but
No.
I mean, he played well enough to secure his spot on the team. And Phil, you brought up that the 5-on-5 play was like really good for the Rangers tonight. That's one thing I also noticed, is that they had a lot of really, really long extended offensive zone shifts where they're working the puck around the perimeter, and eventually they get like a really, really good chance, like not just like a shot from like the dot, like side of the net, like in the paint kind of thing. I think that's where Kreider got his first goal. Was that the one at the end of the first period?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. That one. That was a really nice shift by that line.
Yeah, that shift at the very end of the period, Pittsburgh was lucky to come out not surrendering that fourth goal, because they were pinned in their zone for, I would say it was probably like 2 minutes and change almost, like that they were in there. It felt like it was even more, but it was probably around 2 minutes, I would say. But yeah, good call on that. Natty, what were you seeing out there with these guys?
Yeah, I thought that fourth line looked pretty solid. Obviously, I agree with Joey that I thought Adam Edstrom had to make the roster. I thought he had a very strong preseason. I thought he had a strong preseason last year as well. Now, obviously, he wasn't going to make the team last year straight out of camp because that was his first preseason. But he had his time last year. Came up, had a couple sharp games. Obviously, scored that one goal. Wasn't involved in the playoffs, but you really thought that, this coming into this offseason, that it was going to be a big offseason and a big preseason for him. And, him and Mancini were really the two rookies or the two young guns that really stood out in that preseason. And I'm really happy that those two, are on the roster now and contributing, because they're going to be two big pieces moving forward on this team. And, not only for the future, but this regular season upcoming. And yeah, I thought that fourth line was pretty good. I thought all night they were playing really well. Got to put my hands up to Sam Carrick. I gotta apologize to him a little bit, because I wasn't a fan of that signing. I wanted Blake Lizotte, but for the one game he did play today, I put my hands up. I gotta say, looked good. Obviously with the nice goal, the nice deflection, but he's got to keep it up. And then Brodzinski, with rounding up that fourth line, I thought he was probably the worst out of all four of them. Not that he was terrible, but I thought he was the one passenger on that line more so.
You know what? We'll leave it on this. One thing that I noticed about that line was that the increased speed, and you take someone like Barclay Goodrow out of this lineup, and it's not really a shot at him specifically, but the overall team speed seems like it's that much faster. And like Pittsburgh looked a step behind them, like really like a step behind them. They were all over them at various times. Like after the first 10 minutes of that game, Pittsburgh came out and they fired their opening salvo. And then after that, the next 50 minutes of that game were all Rangers. All Rangers once they weathered that storm. So, but yeah, having that extra speed definitely helps on that fourth line big time. We talked about, guys making impacts. This guy, the meat market's open for business right now. 2 goals, one of them a shorthanded goal. Like Chris Kreider, I think they said the stat was he has 10 shorthanded goals in like the last 2 seasons or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that, because I remember last year it was like 9 in like 2 or 3 seasons, because he had never played the penalty kill in his entire career until Gerard Gallant got there. And then all of a sudden he starts scoring goals on the penalty kill.
It's crazy. And usually it's like it's him and Zibanejad with the 2-on-1 shorthanded, and that's where we're usually used to him seeing those shorthanded goals. But this was all him tonight. I mean,
Phil, it's 10 in the last, since 21-22, it's 10 shorthanded goals.
I wasn't sure of the season, but I remember seeing the stat and I was just like, that's insane, because that's got to be right near the top of the entire NHL. I know he's not the leader, because it would have said if he was the leader, but he's got to be top 5 in that regard then. But I mean, he's just in the right spot in the right time for that little one-timer, and then the shorthanded goal, and that was a pretty dominant night for him.
Yeah. The $6.5 million for him it's looking like a bargain. At the time, it looked like it was a little bit expensive based on his production, but every single year since he got that contract, it's like he's been producing way more. Like, I remember the conversations like, is this guy ever going to score 30? And now he's scoring 40 like every year. He's getting 70 points. It's crazy. I mean, he's off to another great start this year. I think he had one. Didn't he have 2 goals last year in the opener? I feel like he did. He definitely had a shorty last year in the opener.
I remember him having that shorthanded goal because Mika made that ridiculous cross-ice pass in Buffalo. That I remember. I think he may have had another one. I'm not sure. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think it was 2 goals last year in that opener. I think you are right.
Someone in the comments here is bringing up his age. I'm not concerned at all with his age. He looks great. Like if he stays healthy, that's it. Because he's a guy is well conditioned. I just hope he just uses his body in the playoffs and actually hits people. But this is a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 407 Rangers agrees with you here.
Yeah,
the age really isn't a factor when you keep yourself in that type of physical condition. But yeah, we'll move on from that then. And on the other side, go take a shower, Alex. Go take a friggin' shower, because you were disgusting. That goal was just him picking right up where he left off from that Florida series. And he was arguably the best forward. Maddie, I see you definitely got something right on the tip of your tongue.
Hey, listen. I've been saying that. Give him the right time. Give him the scoring opportunities. I know for now he isn't on PP1, and I hope that does eventually change, or maybe they give both units a bit more equal time. But you give this guy power play time, he's going to be a point per game player this year. I'm telling you, because you already see a big difference from where he was from last year to this year. And last year he already made a big jump, but really last year, especially early on in the year when he first got paired with Panarin and Trocheck, you really start to see his playmaking ability come to life. And that was his big thing when he was coming out of the draft with Rimouski. Everyone was talking about Alexis Lafreniere's playmaking ability. And earlier last year, I remember he kept setting up Panarin, kept setting up Trocheck. He was racking up assists, but he was getting robbed of some key points, which could have maybe had him get a couple more points last year. But the one thing that was really bothering him at the start of last year, and that was really affecting him poorly, was his lack of finishing. And I think later on, towards the end of last year, especially in that Florida series, that goal that he scored in Game 3, you could just see that his finishing finally has arrived. And now that he can finally take that finishing ability, match that up now with his playmaking ability, and already the fact that he already improved on his skating from last year. Like I said before, you give this guy power play, you give this guy PP1 time and consistent playing time with the top guys, he's gonna be a point per game player this year. Maybe possibly crack 90 points. You just gotta keep feeding this guy the puck because this guy he's playing with a confidence that I've never seen him before. And he showed sparks. Like I remember, I think it was 21-22, the game against Detroit, where he pulled it put it through his legs and scored that really sick goal. And we were like, cool, I love to see that, but can we see that more consistently now? And that was the one problem with Laffy that we had, was that lack of consistency, that lack of just that confidence. But now every time this kid touches the puck, he just has confidence brewing off him. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. He's just got to keep it up.
I couldn't agree more with all of that. I feel like I should go and DM Johnny Lazarus and get him on there because he's the guy on the Lafreniere train. I mean, I love Laffy, but Johnny's pushing 100 points for Laffy. I mean, Joey, if he could do what Natty is saying and go between like 80 to 90 points, what do you think we're looking at contract-wise for this kid?
So you got to compare it to whoever has just signed. Raymond just signed. Who else just got an extension? Slavkovsky. Yes. Those are the guys that I keep forgetting about. I think he's got to get more than those guys. If he gets the power play time too, he'd definitely get 100 points. But if it's not power play one time, I think there are certain situations in a game where Laviolette could say, like, hey, let me try Lafreniere out there. For example, tonight, the 4-on-3, that situation, I would have liked to seen Lafreniere out there instead of Kreider. You're already up 4-0. You have nothing to lose. You should win that game. There's 20 minutes left in the game. You should have that on lock. Let the guy have a chance. Kreider's already got a goal, and he's gonna get. He was about to get the second one. Well, we didn't know that, but anyways, you give Lafreniere a chance, like on a 4-on-3 or maybe on a 5-on-3, for example. If it's like a 3-0 game in the third period with 10 minutes left, just let him pad his stats or something. Or maybe Drury is saying like, "Hey, Lavy, don't do that. Don't do that. I need this kid's asking price to go down." Maybe he's saying that. I don't know. But to me, this is the future building block of the franchise. You guys have your conversation about Shesterkin. The next window starts with him.
I couldn't agree more with that. Absolutely couldn't agree more with that. While we're on the topic of young guys, I had this a little further down, but I think it's appropriate to go about it now. Young guns on defense shine tonight. Mancini and Jones definitely showed that they belong. And Mancini, I don't know if you guys remember this, but sometime in the first period, I think it might have been around the middle part of it, Mancini took the puck from, I think, about our defensive blue line, and then he skated it out on his own. And there was a Pittsburgh player who tried to absolutely line him up at the blue line, and he made a really nice move to avoid that hit. And then there was another play later in the game where Jones bodied a player. I believe was it Raquel? I'm not 110% positive on who it was. But Jones bodied the player, didn't know where the puck was. Mancini came from his other side, realizing that there was no immediate pressure, came in, swooped around, and took the puck out of the zone and moved it. Like, these are the types of plays that you absolutely love to see from young defenders, because defense, it's probably the position that takes the most smarts to be able to maintain and stay at the NHL level with. It's the toughest in that regard. You could probably argue center, obviously, because of the defensive responsibilities. But defense is so tough. And as somebody who plays defense myself, it just, there's so many elements that go into it. So for these two to play as well as they have all preseason and then continue it. And listen, you can say what you want to say about Pittsburgh, but this is Mancini's first NHL game, and Zach Jones has shown in very limited time that he belongs. So this is big, especially with Lindgren being out.
I mean, what an upgrade on our third D pairing. You take it back to last. You take it back to last in the playoffs where we had to watch a third pairing of Trouba and Gustafsson, and those two struggled to move the puck out of the D zone, and ultimately that's what killed us in the end. Because, I mean, you look at that Florida team. What was Florida able to do? Get on the forecheck and stifle the Rangers' breakout because that Rangers D-core didn't have a lot of guys that were comfortable on the puck, and that's the key in the playoffs. You need guys that have composure and are comfortable on the puck. And now the Rangers have a D pairing where you have two good guys who are very comfortable with moving the puck, and I think that's just a big advantage because now, I mean, pretty much you look at. You look at all the D pairings. I mean, I thought Fox and Keandre Miller. I thought those two played very well together. Especially, I think it was the first time ever in an actual regular season game playing together. So those two looked really good together. Schneider and Trouba, they looked good. Schneider obviously was more of the puck
carrier,
the puck carrier on that line. They looked good, and then. Yeah, it's a huge improvement on what we saw last year, especially in the playoffs.
I'm glad they kind of did away with I need to have a righty on the right side, a lefty on the left side. No, just put whatever pairs work together. Like you have two righties, Trouba and Schneider, and that they seem to work. And you finally give a chance to Fox and Miller. The analytics community has been calling for that for years. You never seen that. Rob Luker, I see that guy is just like, well, if the Rangers tried Fox Miller, maybe they try Fox Miller. And it's just been like that for like 3 years. You haven't seen it. It's like a very small sample size. And the amount of time that they were playing together, the numbers were really good. So you get a full game of that, and the results look promising. I will say, though, I didn't get a good enough look. I have to go back and watch the game because I am a Mets fan, so my attention was mostly directed at the Mets for the first period, and by the time the game was over, it was the second period, and Heedle scored to make it 4-0, and the game was out of reach. So, that point, I'm gonna take everything I see like mistake-wise with a grain of salt because it's 4-0. But I would say like the second period was the most chances that the Penguins had, if you could even call it that tonight.
A brief spurt, yeah.
A brief spurt. But other than that, I think the defense had it on lock tonight, especially Shesterkin.
There was a stat now that you bring that up, and it was late in the third period. I don't remember exactly what time, but the shots were at one point in the first period, the shots were 10-3 in Pittsburgh's favor. The next shot, the shots from there on went 35-13 in the Rangers' favor.
Oh, yeah.
That's just, I don't know if I've ever seen that in a game outside of maybe the two blowouts with Pittsburgh and Nashville, those back-to-back blowouts in the 22-23 season. And then that game against Detroit, I think last year, where they scored like 9 goals or something like that. Or was that the year before as well? But they had a big game against Detroit where they scored like 9 goals.
Yes, that was that year. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Same season.
So, I mean, this is just something we're just not used to seeing. And we're like, I get it. A lot of fans or a lot of the viewers in the chat right now are like saying, is this Pittsburgh just being really bad, or is this us really good? I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. I think like I get it. Like they didn't make the moves that we wanted them to make. We wanted them to go get Gensel. We wanted them to go do this and that. We wanted them to bring in this guy. They didn't bring in that guy. Evan's been all over for Amadio for like I feel like 6 to 12 months.
That's my guy too. So
I know because I remember just being in threads on Twitter, and Evan kept bringing up Amadio, so I always associate him with Evan.
Joel
but I
or
mean,
Mia.
I get it. We didn't make the moves we didn't want to make, but you got to remember this was a team that won the President's Trophy, and they actually slightly improved their roster, maybe even more so than we like to give credit to, because just look at who they got rid of. Gaudreau's gone. So that's a guy that can't do anything really at 5-on-5. Slow skater. Doesn't really help out his line at 5-on-5 in that regard. Gustafsson. Terrible in his own zone. Was absolutely awful from December on. You bring in Riley Smith to help out your right wing problem and upgrade over Jack Roslovic, who could do nothing but skate. That's the only thing he really could do, is skate, and every now and then he had a nice shot. But, this is an improved roster. We really do have to, start, remembering, I guess, because we're so tuned to the disappointment of losing that series, that this is actually a better roster than the one they had last year.
See, my only thing with that was, I think when I looked at the offseason, I thought that they improved, but I thought they didn't improve enough. That was my thing. And the thing for me is, when I was going through the offseason and I said, oh, this team is not really the best. When I was saying that, I wasn't saying that, that they're a horrible team. I'm not saying that they're going to finish 32nd in the league and be a lottery team. No, because my thing is, this team is good enough to make the playoffs, right? But eventually we got to hold the standards, because listen, this is year 6 of this core, right? And this is the last chance that this core is getting. It's this core's last dance. So for me, making the playoffs, and I've said this to you before, Phil, when we were at the concert, making the playoffs for me is bare minimum. It's all about getting there and winning those 16 games and lifting the cup above their heads.
Absolutely.
That's for me. So yes, while I thought that the offseason wasn't exactly the greatest thing in the world, if they're going to look like this, and I'm not saying this on a consistent night, but if they're going to be outplaying teams and, being the better teams, and then we'll get to the trade deadline, and then we'll see what moves, we can make and see what Drury does, then cool. But like I said, this was one game. I liked what I saw, but I got to see more now. This can't just be a one-off game.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree there. I'm sorry.
I think the third line is the main culprit here. I think that's the reason why one of the biggest reasons why the Rangers weren't able to beat the Panthers, is that they became a one-line team. And, outside of Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Kreider's Zibanejad, yes, absolutely. That's a big question. But can Hedl stay healthy? Can Kakko play like he did tonight for all 82 games of the season and also stay healthy? That would be great. Cooley is a really solid player, only in his second year. This is the start of his second year. He looks great. I really wish that goal counted, because that was such a nice play by Kakko, and the pass over. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I felt like in the first period, I swear, I turned my head from the Mets game on the TV. I turned to my laptop, and there the Rangers were in the offensive zone, and they score. I did that 3 times, and it just kept happening. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just going to keep doing that because superstitions. But yeah, I'm mad that goal got called back, because it was a nice play by Kakko. I know he had the breakaway too later on in the game that he couldn't score, and another great chance, but overall, Kakko looks solid. And I'm judging him for where he is right now. I'm not judging him as a former second overall pick, as a bust. I'm not judging him as that. I'm judging him for the player he is right now, which is a third line scoring forward. So if he could put something up similar or better to what he had 2 years ago on the kid line, 40 points, all even strength, I'll be happy.
And that's perfect lead in, because that line absolutely dominated tonight. That line was incredible. Jackie Redmond, who I love, retweeted me, and she basically confirmed, and these numbers here were with 10 minutes left in the third period. Scoring chances, 12-3, high danger chances, 6-2, shots, 10-3, and goals, 1 obviously to 0. Or 2, sorry, that came later in the game, yeah. So
Or the one that was taken away. I'm counting.
Oh well, yeah. That you know what? That's another thing. But I hate how the offside reviews are literally for plays that are just like this that don't really have any impact on the game. But another story for another time.
Nothing is worse than MLB review, instant replay. But go ahead.
Just really annoying.
We could have a separate podcast just for that.
Exactly. We would need a good hour and change to go over all that.
Yeah.
But I mean, this line was incredible. Like every time that they were out there, they controlled the play. The majority of the play was in the offensive zone. And you're right. This team became a one-line team in the playoffs. And you cannot win with one or two lines doing the yeoman's work. The load has to be shouldered by multiple lines. You've got to have three consistent scoring lines at least in the playoffs, and a fourth line that can come on and give you good, energetic, productive shifts. They didn't have that. They had a fourth line that would come on every now and then a guy that everybody loves, and he seems like a great kid, but what is he really doing if he's out there for only 5 minutes, especially in a playoff series?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me, I called for Edstrom to be in there in the playoffs. Another thing that we would need a completely different stream for, but we're starting to see young talent infused into this bottom six and the wonders of what this young talent can do for this team. You know, both of you guys know as well as anybody that this sure as shit wasn't happening under Gallant. And Laviolette is actually doing it. And it's funny because a lot of fans that said, oh, you got Laviolette? Oh, he doesn't like to play young players. Oh, he doesn't like to give young players a chance.
I remember that.
He's done the exact opposite in New York.
That was just the biggest myth ever, because look at all the guys that he helped produce in Philly and Carolina and Nashville.
Thank you.
There was a huge list of guys. So I don't know where that narrative came from, but people got to, shove that list up their ass, because I don't know where that came from. But I think, going back to what Joey said, the third line is going to be huge for this team. And the guy that's really going to be huge, and a reason why that, they ultimately stifled and fell short last year is because of Filipino not being at 100%. And Filipino is going to be huge this season. And part of the reason why I was a little upset with the offseason was because I didn't think that they did enough to address the depth in terms of the center core, because we still didn't know about Heedle's health 100%, because we were like, because even like last year, right? Heedle was playing fine. And then I forgot who hit him on Carolina, but it wasn't even a huge hit. No. And he was out from there. So to me, I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, like if that hit took him out, like what other type of hit could take him out? And it's like, if we lose this guy, who's going to replace him? But if Filipino is going to continue to do this and he's going to take that next step that he should have done last year, and unfortunately he couldn't because he got injured, it's just going to be, it's going to help this team take that next step. And when I was watching the preseason and I was watching him skate up and down the ice and play drive, and people are saying, oh, but look at the competition and stuff. This is what Heedle was supposed to do. And I get that from that perspective, right? But the way I was looking at it from Heedle's perspective was, I was so happy, not just because of who he's playing against, but because the fact that he's skating up down the ice, he's play driving. That for me is more that he's more confident in his health, and the fact that he could do that. So for me, right there, that's huge. And you guys also brought that up, that in the playoffs they were a one-line team. And again, that contributed to their ultimate downfall and why they couldn't beat the Panthers, because even like I was talking about last year, when they started last season, when they were 18-4-1 and they were playing this really good neutral zone shutdown defense, I was like, cool, I love it. The only problem is you're only getting contributions from that second line. And ultimately, when you get into the playoffs, if you're only going to have that one line offense, you're going to be shut down, like we saw. And you look at that also. You look at that third line from last year in the playoffs. You had Cooley, you had Wenberg, you had Kakko. You had no play driver on that third line, and ultimately killed. Now, this is where I was a little bit upset with Kakko last year, because I looked at that line, right, and I was like, all right, Cooley, we know what he is. He's a nice little two-way player, can chip in with goals here and there, but you're not going to rely on him to be that offensive dynamo on that line. Wenberg, we know what he is. He's a pure shutdown 3C who can't hit the net to save his life. Cool. And then I was looking at Kakko. I'm like, cool. You didn't have the season that you ultimately wanted to break out, and you had that injury. But if you could kind of look at like what Hedl did in 2022 and take that opportunity to break out, this is the perfect time to do it now. And he didn't. And ultimately, we know that he ultimately ended that postseason with only 2 points. But now that you have Hedl there, and Hedel's just going to be that play driver, that guy to create everything, and now you could have Cooley and Kakko feed off him, and then build confidence and chip it here and there. I think that third line is going to be key. And look, if Kakko continues to play like this, then sure, he's going to be able to stick around, and hopefully he could be a contributor on this team, for the rest of the season and ultimately on a playoff run, hopefully.
Confidence is such a huge, huge deal, right? Like a confident player probably feels like they could accomplish anything. Lafreniere, for example, in the playoffs, that guy's confidence was at an all-time high, and he pulled off a ridiculous move on 2 defenders, took a hit to make a play, and scored a beautiful goal in like the biggest game of his career, essentially. Right. So you could do anything. It doesn't matter what the competition is. So I understand like that perspective. Always Hedl's playing against, preseason competition, AHL guys. Guy's head is up all the way tonight. Head's on a swivel. Guys like moving the shot. He's always shoot first, which is something that I love. From the video that I posted today, I kept saying shoot, shoot, shoot. The Rangers don't have anybody that does that. And to have that a dedicated shooter, especially for the third line, and it's a good shot too. Pick the corner on Jari. Man, if he stays healthy, Hedl could be a 30-goal scorer, and that's pretty crazy without power play time.
I mean, sign me up. Like right now, sign me up. I wanted to get to this because like you talked about confidence. And the comment from Leo here kind of like goes into that a little bit. One side of it, I don't like that it seems like he needs Hedl, but you were talking about it before, Matt. No play driver on that line. Now you have a facilitator and a play driver on that line. Someone who's going to really create the offense and help those guys get into positions that they can get good scoring chances with. Because Hedl is the guy that is that offensive motor on that line, like by far. Like, I like Cooley, I like Kakko, but they're not doing it themselves. And we thought Kakko was going to be that guy, like second overall pick. I'm not going to harp on that. That Hedl is clearly that guy on that line right now. And I mean, you could just see it. Like without Hedl, he's clearly not the same player. Leo's right, absolutely right about this.
This is like, an ice cold take right here. Phil.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. That's ice cold. I mean that's
this is
fire
bold
right
and
there.
spot on.
Spot on is right. I mean, but yeah, it's crazy to think about because I mean the discussion around Hedl is like, what are we going to get from this guy? Is he going to be gone from this team by the deadline? I mean, it's. I mean, I know it's opening night, but he's looked great all preseason. He looked great in this game, and he looks like his normal self again. So, I mean, that's big. That's big. That's huge. I mean, in order for them to be able to maintain, get to that next level, and really win the cup, you're going to need that third line to be important. Like they're gonna have to have a major impact on every game in the playoffs. So because it can't be just one line every night. It's got to be next man up. Like okay, this line's not scoring. This line's gonna come through. Zibanejad and Kreider, they got to get their shit together, get that figured out. But if you have that third line going, then the opposing coach, has to think about well, these guys are going. What am I going to do to combat them? And if he can't take one of his top 2 pairings in his top checking unit and get to that line, then that line can feast on whatever other competition that they're going to face. And then that creates more problems. So,
Phil, before you move on, I forgot you mentioned the idea of when fans were saying, "Oh, you guys hired Laviolette. He's terrible with young players," and that was fake news, like kind of thing. Like that's, last year, if Gallant was still the head coach, Zach Jones doesn't make it here this far.
No.
The way I love the way Laviolette handled Jones last year. Like, yeah, I wanted him in more, but in hindsight, knowing the type of character that Jones is, he has kind of a chip on his shoulder and he wants to, take the job and run with it. He doesn't want to just be in there, out of there. But like him being the true seventh defenseman last year, because that's what he was. He was there for fill-in case of injuries. When Trouba went down, when Fox was out, remember in the beginning of the season, they plugged him in there, right? And he had good results. It was great. The Trouba suspension too. He scored the goal in the Ottawa game that started the Rangers' big winning streak in January, right? That doesn't happen if Gerard Gallant is the head coach. Jones might be in the press box for all 82 games or down in Hartford. He doesn't get any games, maybe one or two in an 82 game stretch, game season. But that's one thing that I really, really loved about Laviolette. And then again, 2 straight seasons, he comes in, Laviolette, and says, "Hey, it's anybody's ball game here. These young kids have something to prove. If they can take a spot, kick us in the face," whatever the term he used, then yeah, I'm going to look at them. Last year, Cooley made it when no one expected him to. And this year, 2 guys made it when no one expected them to. Edstrom and Victor Mancini. Nobody picked Mancini coming out of the playoffs last year. That's for sure.
No.
5th round pick from 2 years ago? No way. But the guy looked great in rookie camp. He looked good in those games in practice and preseason, and he earned his spot. So I think he deserves to be here. And so did Laviolette. This is a meritocracy. I love how consistent he's been with that. I love that from Laviolette.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. You just with Gallant, we would have never seen this. I still think if Gallant was here, he'd still be running Trouba and Miller together, and we'd all be putting our heads through a wall because that pairing just clearly does not work.
Kid line forever.
If Gallant was here, we'd be seeing Ben Harper up here instead of Victor Mancini.
Oh
yeah,
God,
maybe,
don't even.
Maybe Mackey too. You would be get like Harper Mackey pair, something like that.
No,
let's just bring back the Jared Tenorti and Patrick Nemeth pairing while we're at it.
Oh no!
Remember when Tenorti scored that goal against the Ducks?
Yes. Yeah, it was such a fluke goal too.
It was a floater from the far blue line, like the furthest part of the blue line. It just floated right in there. Everyone's saying he's going to be the MVP.
I just remembered the canned Tenorti posts that happened after that goal. I felt like they were like everywhere. It was just like between the Tenorti.
Between like the 6th, 7th defenseman and 4th line guys the Rangers have cycled through over the past few years, between Jack Johnson, Michael Haley, Kevin Rooney, Reeves, Dryden Hunt. I mean, it feels, I say it every year, it feels nice, like having an improvement. Like, this is nice, having Edstrom and Rempe up on the team. And then defensively, at least for right now, until Lindgren comes back, you have Jones and Mancini, which is great. And I laughed before at this because, instead of going out and acquiring like a veteran, get the younger guys involved. And I've been a big proponent of it. I don't know. The veteran presence thing doesn't really strike me like as important as they make it out to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe
I agree.
Especially in the regular season. Like, you guys expect the Rangers to be in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why not try a younger guy in the beginning of the season? If at the end of the year, you can't win the Stanley Cup in October.
No.
Right? So let Mancini get a little bit of run here. Keep Lindgren healthy. You
know what? It's a good point that you bring up because I do agree with you there. Like I said before, it needs to be next man up. And I look back at the Black Aces in '94, like guys like Hartman and Kiprios and Gilbert and all those guys and Lichter and so on that were kind of coming in and out of the lineup. But Keenan would find ways to get them into games and keep them somewhat fresh so that this way they could come in and, give them productive shifts when they were called upon. And I think Laviolette, if he's smart, will do that even with Lindgren coming back. Because I do think that Lindgren being healthy and rested come playoff time is going to be very important for them. So the fact that they have Mancini and Jones and that they can rotate them in, and then even with Rempe probably won't be playing all of the games, and he shouldn't. I think he's a borderline NHL player at this point. Like, you could bring him in certain games at certain points in times, and he can be very effective. But there are games that you're going to play against faster skating teams who can keep up with the level of pace that the Rangers want to play with on a nightly basis. He falls behind in those games. He clearly does. Even though I think he's improved his skating a little bit. But still, I understand why they run with Brodzinski and guys like that and Edstrom over him, because Laviolette today said that he felt that there were certain guys that fit into certain games that could exploit certain things to help out and win. Laviolette obviously took a look at Pittsburgh's lineup and said, slow. And what did they do? They skated circles around them after the first 10 minutes of the game. So Laviolette, once again, pushes the right button.
Yeah, and it's similar to the 2014 Rangers where they had with Alain Vigneault. Remember the fourth line? They had Derek Dorsett, and they would rotate guys in every now. Yeah, more Dorsett.
And rotated Carcillo in there.
Carcillo and Carcillo, like in that Flyers series, was monumental. The guy, like, they don't win. He had some huge goals for that. Yes. Never forget. But yeah, they don't make. He was huge. Game 7, he got the first goal of that series, and then of course, obviously after you have to go with a little bit more speed, so you put Dorsett in there. Don't want to take as many penalties against a team like Pittsburgh in the second round. But yeah, I like that night. That's for once, it's a good 1994 comparison, Phil.
You know what? That was the first thing I thought of when you were saying that, because I was like, you know what? Keenan did that with the Black Aces. And sometimes it was as punishment to others that weren't doing things the right way or his way, if you will. But yes, I that was immediately where my mind went. Leo, yes. No, I think I just said something. No, my exact words were, we need to take Patrick Nemeth and launch him out of a cannon into the sun. I think was my exact words. That
I like this quote better.
Well,
it sounds better.
They sent to Arizona instead, so I guess that's a nice other option instead into the sun. I mean, it's hot there anyway, so I'm sure you enjoyed it.
Absolutely ruthless.
Let's shop me for Greg McKegg, and we are winning the cup.
I can't believe
if it takes me being traded for Greg McKegg to win the cup, I'm all on board. I'm gonna be at that parade when it happens, if it does. So if you want to trade me for Greg McKegg for a few months, yes, please, by all means, I will make that sacrifice. I am a team player. So, oh man. I mean, I have a couple of more of these, and then I'll go through some questions for a few minutes, because it is getting a little late here. But we were talking about, as I see people talking about Trouba in the chat, but bounce back tour, I don't know. It's one night, but he looked all right.
I'm not preying on his downfall. I'm just saying, I'll root for the guy if I have to, but I mean, we know what needs to be done. We all know the Rangers won't be able to survive, like, cap wise, if he's not off the team next year. Unfortunately,
yeah,
that's just the way the business is. It's how it is. There's no like cap relief program or something like that. There's no, like, it's only going up $4.5 million at the most. next year. And that's not enough to keep 13 free agents, including 2 of your best players, 3 of your best players, you know? So, sorry, Trouba. But yeah, when he does stuff that's good, I'm going to cheer for him. I'm behind him until he's till the end of the line. I'll be behind him. Sure.
No, look, I want all my guys on my roster to play well. Like, I'm not here like just single-handedly bashing Jacob Trouba just because I don't like him. Like for me, I have it simple where if you play well, I'm gonna praise you. If you play like shit, I'm gonna criticize you. And that's just how it is. I'm gonna be fair with it. And even like last year, because I gave Trouba credit at the start of last year, because last season he actually started off really good. Him and Keandre were playing very well together, and I gave him a ton of credit. And then he slipped up again, and I criticized him, and it was fair. And then even at the start of the playoffs last year against the Capitals, he actually had a very good first round series against the Capitals last year. And again, I was saying, and I was giving him praise. And then we all saw what happened against Carolina and Florida. He turned back into the Jacob Trouba that we all know. So listen, I'm only going to be fair with it. If he continues to play well and he has a very good season, fine, I'll put my hands up and I'll give him a ton of credit. But if if this is only for like a 5-game period and then he's going to revert back to the Jacob Trouba that we all know, then yeah, I'm going to criticize him and I'm going to want him gone next year. Like, that's just how it is. This is professional sports. These guys are being paid a lot of money. So if they can't handle my opinion that they need to play better, then well, go grow thicker skin, I guess.
I couldn't agree more with that. It's just it's honestly this little headline thing here was made tongue in cheek just because it's funny seeing Trouba get 2 assists after everything that happened this year or this offseason. But I mean, he didn't play bad. I will give him credit. He didn't play bad at all tonight. And part of that is, the whole team played great, really up and down. I don't think there was anybody that was really bad tonight. But I mean, for him to get 2 assists, that must have felt pretty good for him. I mean, because you got to imagine, he sees his name being floated around. There's talks about him being traded to Detroit. And then, you come back and then you have a night like that. That's got to feel pretty good for him. And you know what? I'd imagine Laviolette probably, went up to him on the side after the game or maybe even said it in front of everybody and probably gave him some dabs. And you know what? Good for him. I mean, good for him. It's a long season, and you got to have a start somewhere where you start to feel better in yourself. So just the confidence you were talking about before. I mean, who knows? Maybe this goes a long way for him. I don't know. I'm not in his head, obviously, but I can tell you it's definitely not a bad thing for this team to have 6-7 defensemen that can go in and give you good minutes. So
it's going to be a bigger test on Saturday against a younger, probably faster, definitely faster team. A hockey club. So we'll see how he does there, how that ankle is working. Because Matt brought up that he played well in that Washington series. That was the Trouba Gustafsson pair when they were running with Miller and Schneider, and that was doing really well. And I mean, the competition in that series is definitely a lot less than Carolina. I feel like once Trouba made that crazy elbow one where he went into the board, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think just his play completely took a nosedive after that in the playoffs from that point on. I don't know. I think that was, what was that, game 2? I think that was that hit attempt. Everything after that, I just remember it being poor.
I just look at that picture and I just think of me on Monday morning. It's literally just a meme for me on Monday morning. Just I'm not ready for this week. Here I go, bang, dead. But I mean, we'll see what happens with him. Tonight's a good start for everybody. So little tongue in cheek, but I gotta have fun with things. I have 2 more things, and then I'll kind of just put these together. But the Rangers control the game at 5-on-5.
Okay.
what is that like? I mean, are we in the
for
upside down right now from Stranger Things? Like, because we're not used to this whole 5-on-5 thing being really a thing, a good 5-on-5 team. And then they dominate in transition, double digits and odd man rushes against. I mean, it just they just looked like a much faster, much more energized team after that first 10 minutes. So it's like, okay, right, we're a little. They definitely moped around and weathered Pittsburgh's storm, and then it was like all of a sudden, okay, we're gonna take this game over, and there's not really anything that you're going to be able to do about it. Like Sidney Crosby, like he had a couple of shifts where he made a couple of things happen, generated some scoring chances, but he was pretty quiet most of the night. Malkin, he looked good on a couple of shifts, but another one, overall quiet. Raquel, didn't hear anything from him. McGroarty, honestly, if I didn't hear them call McGroarty's name a couple of times and him to talk about him being a first-round pick in that trade and everything, I wouldn't have even known that he played in that game. Like they stifled him. Not that he was like a focal point of the defensive schematic or anything, but he wasn't. He was really a non-factor. And Carlson, like you saw him a couple of times with the puck in the zone, but he didn't really do anything offensively.
Phil gave the Torts quote. I wouldn't know Rucker from a hole in the wall.
Oh man.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, like I don't know what it's like. Matt, I don't know about you. I don't know what it's like to have a good 5-on-5 team. I know you watched like the rest of the NHL and like teams like Winnipeg, Vancouver have good 5-on-5 teams, but the Rangers tonight, transition, double digits and odd man rushes. I've heard people calling for like, what's the identity of this team, this core? What is their identity? It cannot just be, all right, let's just get big saves from Shesterkin to keep us in the game, get a big power play and score a goal and then win the game. It can't be just that. You need to have a niche, like something more than that, something that you could dominate at, that you're better than every other team at. That's not goaltending. So transition game, a couple of years ago, the Devils just ate turnovers for breakfast, and that's how they scored on you. Something like that.
Hey, listen, what a wild concept that you're good on the transition when you have competent puck movers on D. What a wild concept that is.
Wow.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
on pace for 328 goals at 5-on-5.
Yeah,
End the season right now.
That's
right now. We're never getting that close.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
And Crosby's on pace for minus 164.
Oh yeah, Crosby on pace. Yeah, that's hilarious too. He'll probably have 90 points by the end of the year, though.
Yeah, he will.
But it's crazy to think about because you talked about Matt before, and I've had this discussion with others as well, and I know I posted it on Twitter. I've even talked to friends about it, but the reason they lost to Florida is because they had no answer for that forecheck. And if you're the way that you have to beat Florida, and you saw it in Edmonton in games 3, 4, games 4, 5, 6, and 7, that Edmonton was able to really successfully beat that forecheck by making that first quick pass. And that's really what it is. And whether it's D to D or whether it's an outlet pass, like that first move with that puck has to be done quickly and precisely. And having two defenders that are younger that can move the puck, and whether it's by passing or skating, can really help this team out. And you saw it against Pittsburgh was caught with their pants down so many times. So many times. Like, what were they doing? Like, their transition game was god awful tonight. And a credit part of that to the Rangers as well. But, I mean, if the Rangers are going to be this good transitionally against every team, maybe they do challenge for another President's Trophy. Who knows?
I've never looked at the Penguins, like a Rangers-Penguins game in my life, and said, like, all right, yeah, this game's over. Let's turn it off. Like, the Rangers were clearly outclassed and outmatched the Penguins tonight. It was not even close. Like the talent, the personnel level, it's not even on the same stratosphere anymore. That's how far we've come. It's just because of time, pretty much. It's never been that way. Literally, like how I felt when the Jets beat the Patriots the other week. Like I've never seen the Jets convincingly beat the Patriots like that. Never, ever in my life. Always a battle. Always something, a nail biter, something that you have to squeak out to the very end. Same thing here tonight with or last night, since it's after midnight. Yeah, never seen that happen. Hopefully, maybe this is Pittsburgh downfall. I don't know.
Please, I'm hoping for their downfall. I mean, it pretty much already happened considering they missed the playoffs now for the last 2 years. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But I think going back to like what I was saying before about being able to break the puck out and you're a good transition game, and that that comes with when you have defensemen who are very comfortable and have a lot of composure on the puck. That's pretty much part of the reason why I was really excited when the Rangers in the draft this year. And I get it, he's not going to be here for at least 2 to 3 years. That's part of the reason why I really wanted them to draft EJ Emery. Because when I was really watching his clips when he was playing for the U.S. developmental team, that was the one thing that I really noticed with him was how comfortable he is at breaking out the puck. And I know he's more of a defensive defenseman guy who can break up play and use his body really well, but he's very underrated at using his skating ability and breaking the puck out. So I think that's another guy that we really have to look forward to. And I'm definitely going to be checking in and watching a bit of North Dakota games this year to see how his progression goes, because I'm really excited for this kid in the future. And then, you wait 2 to 3 years and you eventually pair this kid up with, Jones, Mancini, Fox, this decor in the future, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I would. I was high on EJ Emery as well. I think of when the Rangers drafted Brady Shea. He played a very similar type of game to the one that Shea played before he first came up with the Rangers. Because when he came up, Vigneault changed him around and tried to turn him into a puck mover. And that's why that you had that crazy 39-point rookie season. That's why a lot of people were surprised by that. Because nobody really expected him to ever really put up that amount of points at the NHL level. Even when I watched him at Minnesota in the World Juniors, he reminds me a lot of how Emery plays. Solid defensively, good skater, not overly physical, comfortable moving the puck out of his own zone, breaking it out, whether by passing or skating it out. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. So I know a lot of people like to look at Keandre Miller. I think they're different in that regard. I do. I think Miller was always more of like a guy who I thought was trying to be an offensive guy. Emery, I think the offense really isn't there, and I don't think the offense will ever really be there. But if he can turn into a guy like maybe like Slavin.
That was always my comparison. I'm like, if he could go to North Dakota and he could work on his offensive game just a little bit, if he could become a Jacob Slavin light for a guy that you draft at 30th overall, that's a steal of a pick.
Absolutely.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely going to sign up for that. But yeah, I just think that with the way that they're going, and they're trying to draft the right defenseman, and you could see that in Emery. Mancini comes out of nowhere. He's got size, skates well, moves the puck well. Jones is good at moving the puck, but there's obviously a transition happening to better skating, better puck moving defensemen who can play a decent two-way game, which is great. Got one more that I'm going to go over.
Save the best.
And I have to save this one for last. Yeah. But I missed all the contract talk. Igor opens up with a 29-save shutout. And he looked kind of untested after, I would say, the first 10 minutes. There were little spurts where they got chances here and there. But, I mean, this is something else, man. Because there was a lot of talk about this guy over the last 2 days. Over the last, I would say, couple of weeks right now with this contract talk. So for him to come out and just be like, I'm going to put up a 29 save shutout on opening night against the Penguins over a divisional rival and keep Sidney Crosby off the board, it's got to be pretty good for Shesterkin's camp.
Yeah. I know how you guys feel about like the whole contract thing. I'm just like more concerned about how like the reporters handled this whole contract negotiation thing. You know, he gets a shutout, right? First of all, let's go back a day. Weeksy reports that he turned down $11 million a year over 8 years, $88 million in total. Highest paid. He would have been the highest paid goaltender in NHL history, surpassing Carey Price's previous deal. What is that?
North Dakota.
Oh, North Dakota. Okay. I was wondering what it was. Why your camera turned off.
But
anyways,
I got that because we were talking about Emory and North Dakota.
North
Dakota is one of two teams I really follow in college hockey. The other one being Boston College. But
all right,
yeah.
Anyways, I was saying about Shesterkin. We had also known all from like the offseason from Brooks's articles that Shesterkin, once the regular season started, that's it. That's it for his negotiations. He's not going to talk about it. Doesn't want to discuss with the team. Certainly not. If he's not discussing with the team, why the hell would he be discussing with reporters? So why reporters? Why is that your first question? All the beat reporters for the Rangers, why is that your first question? Can you comment about your contract negotiations and why you rejected $88 million over 8 years? Bitch, I just got a shutout. Opening night. Why are you asking me about my contract? You guys know that I'm not talking about this. That is the dumbest question ever, man. Like, why are you asking that? What else? What could it be any worse of a response? And then he gave the ultimate FU and said, like, listen, I'm not answering anything about my contract. If you want to ask me about Mancini's debut, Keto looking good, or this other guy, be my guest. I'm not talking to you about my contract. What is this? What is the deal with these reporters? I don't get it. It's so stupid. They don't want to report. They don't want to comment on the rejection, the contract rejection after the news comes out. But they'll ask him a question about his contract the second after he gets a shutout in the opening game, which hasn't been done since the 50s. That's crazy, man. I'm with Shesterkin. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Dump Worsley. 19. Yeah. What was it? Who put it? Mike
MYR put it earlier on in the chat.
1956.
1950. Yeah. I saw that, but I think it's hilarious how, I mean, he just comes out and just like, okay, like, I mean, the other thing that I was talking to with Marc and Anthony earlier on today about is that, you know, he could end up using this as motivation and he could end up having another one of those 21-22 type seasons. If he has one of those with this team in front of him, I mean, who knows what they could do.
If you get 82 games of this plus playoffs, man, they'll be able to beat anybody. But we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Matt's already, he's saying that.
What?
We know that's not going to happen. 82 games of like exactly game one. Like how they played against the Penguins.
No, I mean, look, you're never gonna look. Whenever I'm criticizing them because not playing well, like I'm not expecting 82 games of perfect hockey.
Nah.
Like this is a regular season. Like there's gonna be games where you don't play well and you still win, and even there'll be the opposite. There'll be games where you play really well and you still lose because that's just sports. That's just hockey. But at the end of the day, I want to see consistent playing style where you're being the dominant team for the majority of the year. Because even like you look at the Panthers last year, were the Panthers great every game? No, but for the majority of the games that they were playing, they stuck to their style and they played a style of hockey that I could see them winning a cup. And ultimately, that's what they did. They went on and they won a cup. So that's what I'm looking for them. I'm not looking for perfection all 82 games. Look, in theory, would I love that? Sure, but as in reality, no, that's not going to happen. But like I said, just play a good, consistent style of hockey for the majority of games that you're playing in.
They're talking about like the leak. Like, well, don't be angry. They asked, he's the one who turned down $88 million. But I'm saying they already knew, these reporters knew in advance that he wasn't going to be talking about it. So why even bother asking him about it, especially after he just opened the season with the shutout? It makes no sense. You know the guy is not going to answer the question. So don't ask it. Ask him something better. You got to get the guy to open up some other way. I'm an amateur journalist. I know this better than that. I think it's a stupid question. You know what he's going to say.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, is he betting on himself for a larger contract? Yeah, that's
so.
what he's doing. I mean, and you've got to, now he has to deal with the possibility of, you know, a down season, maybe even injuries. You never know. But I'll tell you this. This is just an opening salvo from Shesterkin in his camp. And if Shesterkin is this focused, that's dangerous. That is a dangerous proposition for every other team in the league. But I had to get that one in there for last because, I mean, I feel like this has been talked about so much, but it's so interesting that after all this opening night happens with a 6-0 shutout. And like it felt like it was a Marty Brodeur 1999 shutout where he had like 18 or 20 saves. 29 saves. I mean, that's decent. 18, that's a decent amount of shots.
18 saves shutout.
So
typical Devils defense.
Typical Devils.
Neutral zone trap.
I'm gonna go through some starred comments bookmark comments that I went through before. Wow, a lot of these are from Leo, so I have to get rid of a couple of them from Leo. Sorry, Leo. No offense to you, but it just have to get some from the other people in. So. We'll start with. Okay. How about Mancini going against Crosby in defensive? Igor, I hated the pick, but wow, I am eating my words on Mancini. I don't know how you could hate a 5th round pick. I mean, there's not a whole lot you could really do with a 5th round pick. I mean, maybe if you're looking for a certain player in that 5th round that you think that has an outside shot of being an NHLer, but I'll tell you right now, Mancini, from the last part of last year into today, has been one of the highest and fastest rising properties in this entire organization, or entities, I should say, in the entire organization. He's just been somebody that has skyrocketed. He was nowhere on anyone's radar at the start of last year. And now all of a sudden, this kid is just... He's playing opening night. Like, what a 12 months that guy has had.
I can't believe I'm seeing this guy whack Crosby with the stick and push him. I'm like, holy shit, this kid is here. He could stay. Like, this guy's got to stay now. Like, man, he's just not shy at all. I love to see that. Like, that's, you see like a rookie come up. Maybe they're nervous, fumble the puck a little bit. Then you get a close up of their face, like from the camera, and have a look of uncertainty on their face. Oh, this guy is locked and loaded, ready to go. As soon as he gets here, I love that. What about you, Matt?
No, I'm loving his game right now, and you know what? I've given Drury a lot of stick over the last couple of years because I haven't really trusted him. But the one thing I've always given major credit to Chris Drury on is in drafting, especially in the later rounds. I think that he's done a very good job in terms of identifying, these talent in the late round picks. I mean, like we said, Mancini was a 5th round pick in 22. You got Noah Labo in the 4th round pick in 2022, Bryce McConnell-Barker in the 3rd round, Sikora in the 2nd round, and obviously, with guys like Rubrek in the 6th round in 2023's draft. I mean, he's done a pretty good job at identifying these guys later in the draft. So, and listen, I think when you look at the past couple of Cup teams in the years before, and you really look at their depth pieces, a lot of those guys are from the later rounds in which they develop them through their own, through their own AHL and their own farm system, and then they come up here, they're playing on cheaper contracts, and those are the guys that are helping you win cups. Like the superstars guys, you need that, but you really need your own internal depth guys to help you eventually go and win a cup. And that's the one really thing that the Rangers teams of the past, especially even like the 2014, the 2015, the 2017 teams, that's what those teams are really lacking, that depth within the organization that was drafted and developed. And listen, now if these guys are going to come up and they're going to help this team, eventually win a cup, then cool. But yeah, listen, credit to Chris Drury at least on that. I'll give him that.
It's what kept teams like Tampa Bay and like Detroit teams of old going, right? Didn't Detroit, like when they had that crazy playoff streak, have a bunch of guys that were picked in the later rounds?
I mean, look, Andre Palau was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay. Yeah, of course, Tampa Bay.
You know who else is a 7th round pick, right?
Datsu.
He was a 6th, actually.
Zetterberg?
Zetterberg was a 7th, but I was talking about Henrik Lundqvist.
Oh, yeah.
205 overall in 2000. 7th round pick.
Last goalie, right?
Crazy. But yeah, you're totally right about that. You need younger guys to come up, and you need to hit on some of these depth picks to become like NHL players to contribute, not just for cap purposes, but you don't want to be going and overpaying depth players like they did with Barclay Goodrow. You could avoid that by having an infusion of young players like a Berard, like a Sikora, like a Rempe. Like Rempe and Edstrom are both late round picks. I think Edstrom was a 6th and Rempe was a 7th.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, it's just you get these guys coming into your system late, and I just remember like when those 2 picks were taken, a lot of people were like, "Oh, here's the Rangers' annual dart throw at a big guy that's 6'6" or above." Because they did it with Hugo Olaz as well, and they've done it with others in years past where it just hasn't worked. But these guys ended up playing a decent amount of games in the NHL so far for where they were drafted and when they were drafted. Like, it's really good. Really, really good. But I'll go through some of these others because we're trying to make these quick. B-Rye, how do we feel about Edstrom tonight? Edstrom looked really good.
Yeah, good stuff. Need to see more.
Matty?
Oh, no, I think, like I was saying before at the start, Edstrom was solid tonight. I think the one thing that really impressed me about Edstrom is for his size, he's a really good skater, and he handles the puck very well. So the fact that the Rangers found a guy in Edstrom that, not only has the size, but also has those attributes, I think as a guy for a 4th liner and on a cheap league minimum contract that he's already on now with his ELC, I mean, he's a steal of a depth player right now for the Rangers.
Couldn't agree more with that. Absolutely. Mike is one of the things that we were talking about before with like the whole, is this a combination of Rangers good or Pittsburgh bad or whatever the case may be? I listen, I think Pittsburgh did play poor, but I think the Rangers made them play poorly. I just think the Rangers were too much for them. But yeah, I wouldn't take Utah lightly. I really wouldn't. And I think tomorrow night's game against the Islanders is a game that we should all be watching because we're going to see what we're going to be getting in store with Utah, because you can only judge so much against Chicago because Chicago's still bottom of the barrel team, even with their improvements to their roster. But I'll tell you right now, that game tomorrow night is definitely something we all are going to want to watch. But yeah, Jackie. Mike wants Jackie Redmond to be his second wife. Mike is okay. Yeah, we would all love Jackie Redmond in our lives. We would all love that. Oh, so let's see here. John Radigan actually brought up a good one. Brandon Carlo comparisons for EJ Emery. Well, not bad. Not bad at all. I would take that. I'd take that and I'd run. Let's see. Tomas, after the first Yeah, after the first 10 minutes, it looked like the Rangers were playing against a team in a far worse league. Yeah, you could definitely say that, Tomas. Definitely say that. B-Rye, open to seeing a Schneider-Lindy second pairing, which actually goes into another comment that I bookmarked.
Yeah,
They keep Fox and Miller together when Lindgren comes back.
Yes.
This I really want to hear your boys' thoughts on.
I don't think we've ever seen Schneider Lindgren as a pair before. So, I mean, like I said, your team's going to make it to the playoffs. Why not experiment with a few things in the first 15 games? I've been saying it a lot the past couple weeks, but yeah, definitely keep Fox and Miller together, man. Let's ride this out there because you may have something really, really special here. Your two best defensemen on the same pair, same line.
Yeah, no, I'm all in favor of keeping Fox and Miller together. And listen, I get it. Fox and Ryan Lindgren, they're best friends. I get it. They've been deep partners now for the last couple of years. All the way going back to the U.S. developmental program. But at the end of the day, you have to play better players with better players. And I think when you look at other top D pairs around the league, I mean, listen, you look at, for example, you look at the Avs top D pair with Makar and Devon Taves. Now, look, Cale Makar in his own right, he's already one of the best defensemen in the NHL, right? But him playing with Devon Taves and him playing with an elite defenseman next to him, that makes him even better. That lets him that lets Makar take more risk than he already can. So I think while Lindgren's not a bad defenseman, I just think him playing with Fox, I think it limits Fox. I think if you see Keandre and Fox play together more consistently and you give them more playing time, I think you'll see an even better Adam Fox that we've seen in the past before.
That's just a good point here too. Separating them makes it easier to move on from Lindgren if we need to. Yeah. And Lindgren doesn't. Last year, for sure, he definitely didn't provide any offensive value. Pretty much just all defensive value. If you look at the oh man, what is the Z score chart? What is Matt? You know what I'm talking about? The chart, the blue and the red chart. The
Z score,
yeah, the evolving hockey.
It's the good stuff is all just defense, the goals against and expected goals against, and the red, it's like really bad for goals for and expected goals. I sound crazy. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I sound like a crazy person. But yeah, putting your two best offensive defensemen together has so much potential for goal scoring, especially at even strength. It works to their strengths because Fox plays way better in the offensive zone. He's no slouch in the defensive zone, but same deal with Miller. That's their game. They're like this. They're built for each other.
And even like I was saying, like you'll see an even better Adam Fox. You're gonna see an even better Keandre Miller because Keandre Miller for the last couple of years, he's been playing with Jacob Trouba, and you could just tell when he's playing with Trouba, he doesn't look comfortable, and he has to overcompensate for him. And then you see when he plays, he goes out of position, and he just looks lost out on the ice. I think if you see those two playing together, you'll see Keandre look a lot more confident. You'll see him, be a lot more offensive. You'll see him jump in the offense a bit more. You'll maybe start seeing his body a bit more. And I think for the Rangers to go far this year, Keandre Miller is already one of my players this year. I was looking like if the Rangers want to go deep, Keandre Miller is going to have to take that next step and eventually, make that next jump because we've seen Keandre Miller the last couple of years where, he started a season well, he's tailed off, or he started a season poorly and then he's finished strong. We need to see a season where from start to finish, he just plays really well throughout the whole regular season.
I agree. Couldn't agree more with that. But I am going to wrap this up here. Thank you both for coming on. I appreciate it. Really do. This was a fun stream. We will definitely do more of these throughout the season. I know we started doing them towards the end of last year, especially in the playoffs. We were doing them, and they were really fun. But definitely, if you guys aren't following Matt's at Ranger Central with Evan, as otherwise you guys know as Core Python. Follow them. Check their stuff out. Joey, as you can see at the bottom, is Ice Cold Takes Podcast at Ice Cold Takes Pod. Follow him. Check his stuff out. and support everybody in the hockey community here. And as always, like, share, and subscribe for not only for Big Apple Hockey, for these guys as well, because these guys work their asses off in putting out content. So make sure that you're doing though. If you haven't seen Joey's interview with Don LaGreca, go and watch that one. That's a real good one.
That was fun.
I mean, I am pretty jealous. I actually got to like meet him in person very briefly when I went to that Rangers Flyers game like 2 years ago. It was the one where Kreider scored the overtime winner on the breakaway. That 1-0 game.
Okay.
Yeah. We were so Marc knows somebody who works for ESPN Radio, and he got us into that suite. And Don came in for a few minutes and hung out with us and ate and stuff. So he was actually a really nice guy. I got to talk to him for a couple seconds.
Oh,
so
nice.
He was cool.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best. Such a down to earth guy. I love him. He's great. He's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
that was it was the 200th episode. I had to get someone special on, and he was right there for me.
That's
good.
Great, man.
Yeah,
that was fun, man. It's great having guys like that on. It's great having other people from other like podcasts and content creators on and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
so
I like doing
love
this. I like doing this too because it's like I could be myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm joking around with you guys. It's crazy, and then like the fans here in the chat are great.
Yeah, and like I said, like I was telling you before we got on, open forum. It's just I would rather the genuine experience from what you guys and what's really like on your mind, and like I might prod you guys because I listen. I get it. You're trying not to step on toes at times, but I want you guys to just be like, just step right in and do whatever and say whatever because it's I like the authenticity of it. That's just me though.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like we could do that too. We're good. We're a good group here.
Absolutely. So if you guys want more of these, definitely put it in the comments because I think you guys are all pretty happy with this from what I can see. I do say everything. Yes, I'm very mouthy and vocal. So yes, I definitely say what's on my mind there. But definitely let us know because the more the better reactions we get from these and the more of the demand, the more of these we will do. So please let us know. But definitely check out these guys, support their stuff, and support everybody in the hockey community as well. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. Let's go Rangers, and have a good night, everybody.
Oh.
You what? You passed? How could you do that?
Jerry, my young friend. You're so naive. You are so naive. You know about a few things, but you are so far out of your element here, you're embarrassing yourself. Now listen to me. I'm negotiating. Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
Let me explain to you what you just did. If we pass, that's it. They go to the next show.
Ooh, I'm scared.
What do you think? They're up there going, hey, maybe we should give those two guys who have no experience and no idea more money.
Oh, what are we gonna do? I'm shaking.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Well, we'll just see.
Yes, we will.